Welcome everyone to the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. And this time around, after much badgering from a certain professor, that's you, yeah.
Hello!
And the 13th Crusader, we've decided to take a break from everything that is all pointy ears. There shall never be a bat in this episode.
No Batman. This is a Batman-free episode.
Well, you just mentioned him.
Yeah, well,
I mean, you know.
if I could have put Squadron Supreme in here, I could have got away with it. But never mind. All right, as promised last time around, we are assembling the Avengers. This is our picks of what we think are the best Avengers books, along with some interesting chat. So, Professor, you're the No Prize podcast guy.
Sure.
What was it? Sure. What was it about the Avengers that kind of piqued your interest? Because everything's like 60 years old in Marvel now, so 60 years of the Fantastic Four, 60 years of the X-Men, all around the corner. So what was it about the Avengers?
I think it was when I was younger, or I want to say when I was just a little kid, like at single digits, I loved the Super Friends cartoon, and I fell in love with Superman, Batman. I'm getting back to this.
You can't say Batman in here.
Okay, but when I first started reading Marvel and I liked the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man and the Hulk, I didn't know about the Avengers until one day when I was in a local convenience store. I picked up Avengers number 246, and I had Captain America in it. I liked that, but then it had a bunch of characters I didn't know. But it was like She-Hulk and Star Fox and it's like a bunch of weird ass characters, and I was like, this is actually pretty cool. And I get a bunch of heroes instead of just one. So a lot of the people that you hear about that love Justice League is because they get all their heroes in one because they didn't have a lot of money, right? So I'd spend my allowance on the Avengers to get a bunch of heroes in one book. And then when I started reading and I saw that it was issue 246, and I was like, oh my God, there's 245 other issues that I could read if I can find them.
You can tell you work with numbers, can't you? Whoa.
Right. Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I was not. At that time when I was a kid, I was not aware of the back issue market. Like I didn't know that you could go back and find these books, and then that led me to try to find flea markets is where I would turn up to try to find old issues, and that really kind of gave me that collector bug to finish my Avengers collection, and that was really what turned me on about the Avengers specifically, was that I had all the back history to read. So
remind me, didn't we look at yours? Didn't we look at Avengers 246?
We did. We reviewed it. Yeah,
that is that good. Oh my!
And it is.
Oh,
it's not a good book. It's not a good book. It's not. I agree with you.
How on earth? Must have been a quiet night in your house. that was the hot spot. Oh,
it was. I can't tell you what made me fall in love with it. It was just the whole concept of having so many stories and knowing that there was Captain America was an Avenger for a long time, and then finding out Iron Man and Thor. And I think there was a couple of panels of that issue that the West Coast Avengers showed up in, because that was in the middle of them setting up and before they got their own book.
All right, it was a party issue, wasn't it? There was a thing going on.
Yeah.
Check me out. It's like I was actually awake for it. Okay. 13th. Why the Avengers back then? Why not the X-Men?
Well, once upon a time, I was a very little boy, and they would give the reruns of the Marvel comics cartoons, and I was a sucker for the Iron Man cartoons, the Thor cartoons especially, and Captain America as well. So as I got older and I started getting into comics, we're talking about, the 200s and up. I was like, wow, these guys, I like their books individually, but now I'm getting them wholesale. They're all in one book. And I started collecting from there, really getting into Avengers. And then kind of similar to Bud's situation, I discovered a big comic store in Forest Hills in Queens. And I was like, that was a huge store to get back issues of Avengers. And
stop a second.
So on and so forth.
Forest Hills, like where May Parker lives.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Forest Hills is a real place.
It is.
I knew that already. I was just going for the joke. It's fine.
Yeah, but that's what pretty much kept my interest in Avengers, and it was good enough to pick up the stuff continuously, and good enough for me to go back,
Yeah.
and then keep it going for some time.
Okay, cool. I must admit, I was never a huge Avengers fan. It was just a little bit too twee for me. I think I was more Fantastic Four at the time. And you got to remember that when you guys are buying books off the rack in full color, I'm buying black and white reprints. So back in the day, there was no real, at that age, I should say, there's no real comic book shop. It's just your newsagents, your convenience store. So I always feel a little bit behind the curve. I think probably my interaction with Avengers was the Marvel Team Up book.
Mm.
Yeah, where I'd probably pick up like a fair few of those because you get two for the price of one. Invariably, you get characters like Black Widow and you get Iron Man and Cap, and we said before, it's one of the reasons why I used to buy Brave and the Bold.
Did you color the black and white comics yourself or no?
No. And then so that was like the 70s. So just in the 80s, you used to be able to get Marvel DC books at the newsstand as the proper American versions. Marvel were a little bit late to the game in the early 80s, but then hey ho, that's the way it worked, I'm afraid. So I don't have the natural affinity, I suppose, for the Avengers. They've always been like kind of a bit of a backup thing for me. So each to their own. Cool.
That's because Batman's not in it.
Who? Don't know who you're talking about. Who is this? Who is this Batman? Is this a baseball player? Is this a baseball reference? Is that what you're saying?
Nighthawk from Squadron Supreme.
Oh, right. Yeah, he wasn't in it back then, though. All right, okay. So we are going to start with a granddaddy of an issue. Now, I'm not saying that this is the best Avengers issue, bearing in mind there are three before this. See, my maths is almost as good as yours there, Professor.
Yeah. Well done. Cool. Well done.
But this book is so influential, it has caused, when Stan Lee died, for people in the media over here to say that this character was created by Stan Lee. Morons. All right.
Yeah, that is not true.
No, that's not true. So, Avengers number 4. It is the mighty issue where Captain America joins. It is written by Stan the Man Lee, art by Jack the King Kirby, letters by Art Simek. No colorist was given, so sorry for whoever colored it in. Just know it wasn't me back in the 70s. Thanks, cheers. So this is 1963 book. I had a look on a certain bidding site. I could only find one of these of very good condition, and it would set you back, which I don't think is too bad considering. £2,000.
So was that about $5,000 US?
It's about 3.5.
3.5.
So I think that's a pretty good price for this book.
It's not bad.
Yeah, considering. All right, Professor. Professor 13th. It was your book, so take it away, sir.
I won't be offended if you call me professor. I do have a doctorate in comics as well. So,
well, next time around, you're gonna have to prove that. Just saying.
Batman. Am I good now?
Nope.
Okay, good. Well, as Johnny was saying earlier, what makes this book significant is the return of Captain America in the Silver Age, in the early days of Marvel. That would be a true statement. And Captain America had his own comics, Captain America comics, during the war, World War II. And he underwent a hiatus, and then here he is again in the early days of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's Marvel, and obviously Avengers number 4. So the lineup of books for Marvel was new. They had, Fantastic Four and Avengers. So in the 4th issue, Captain America makes a comeback. And I think it was a very, very good comeback. So as Johnny was saying, this is a very significant issue for a variety of reasons. It's the first time that Cap comes back. It's the first time you see his partner Bucky as well appear in the Silver Age of comics. This is in the early days of the Avengers, the original Avengers, minus the Hulk, who was a founding member Here in issue 4, Captain America walks in. So if this story has been reprinted left and right, it's been retold in a variety of ways. It really is a cornerstone of the early Marvel universe. It really is, and it's one of the most significant events in Marvel history. There's just no ifs, ands, or but about it. What Captain America meant during the war was very significant, but what he meant for Marvel Universe in the very early days is equally as important. And Captain America has just become one of the Avengers' cornerstones. He has been a leader of the Avengers. He has been a guide to the Avengers. He's held his own title for decades. This guy's not going away anytime soon. There have been others that have taken up the mantle, but none of this would have happened had this issue had not come out. This is pretty much where things started for the Captain America legend in modern times.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a very simplistic issue. There's nothing, mesmerizing about the script. It's just basically how are we going to get Captain America back after him sitting on the shelf for such a long time. And I think that the explanation was excellent. It was believable that him and Bucky were trying to stop a plane. There's a hand in this issue, which later on is explained as the original Baron Zemo, placing them in that predicament. Bucky dies and stayed dead for decades. We all know now he's Winter Soldier, come back. But this was a huge trauma for Captain America. Another huge trauma where he falls into the ocean and freezes and is in suspended animation until he is revived later on. The Avengers find him, and it didn't take him long to fit in. And basically, they just laid the red carpet down for him and said, "We know who you are. We've heard of you. We know you're the real deal. You know what? Hang with us." And so he did, and to the point where that was Cap's family, and he eventually lived in what later was going to be known as the Avengers Mansion. That was his home. So he was a diehard member of the Avengers. So, I mean, he's been in countless adventures with the Avengers, without the Avengers, and with other heroes. And most importantly, he's been an inspiration to the characters within Marvel, and inspiration to the creators and to the fans alike. So it's definitely a must-have book if you can find it. I'm glad to hear that it's not $1 trillion. But
I was surprised.
There's very few books, and I'm just going to share a story quickly in what happened with this book. This is a Grail book. It was a Grail book for me for all the reasons I mentioned before, and then some. You can see this book in conventions here and there, but I was like, how am I going to get my hands on this book? So I kind of put out a bounty, if you will, with retailers near me. And I'm like, hey, whoever can find this, here's my number. Give me a call. And if you get it, I'm not going to even hesitate. And that's exactly what happened. I was at work one day and I got a text. I called the dealer, a good friend of mine. Hey, Mike, you never believe what I have. Here's this. I sent me a picture. I was there in 13 minutes. That is a true story. No questions asked. I opened my wallet, and it was just the rush that I'm like, I can't believe that I'm holding this in my hands. I opened the book, obviously smell the ink, and I'm like, I have the Silver Age appearance of Captain America. That's a huge deal.
It's massive.
That was a definitely great moment of my comic collecting career, if you will. And then obviously felt like a little kid again reading the story. So definitely a good time with this.
To say Captain America is pretty much the fulcrum for the Avengers, I don't think the Avengers would be popular without Captain America. I think Captain America was that one piece that kind of turns the Avengers from just a bunch of kooky superheroes into something that actually stands for something.
Right.
So for me, this book is hugely important, massively. You get Professor, you get all the starts and tribulations of Steve Rogers' trauma in this book, don't you?
You do. I mean, anything that's Captain America's history, Steve Rogers' history, this is the book. This is the one that they established his Silver Age continuity. They established what happened to him post World War II. I would want to say that this is the first retcon book, because Captain America actually appeared in the 50s during Atlas Comics as a commie hunter. And they retconned that here. They don't even mention that here.
Yeah.
In this book, he has become or he is in suspended animation at the end of World War II. And then you kind of find out later, Steve Englehart kind of fleshes that story out and brings him back, brings that story back. But here, and I have my own story of how I came across my Avengers issue number 4.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's I spent my 20s trying to put together a full complete set of Avengers Volume 1, and I had almost all of them, and I was missing the first 4 issues, and also I was missing issue 8, which is an early Spider-Man appearance, and I was missing issue 10, which was the first King the Conqueror, and I had just chalked it up that I was just never going to find those issues, or when I did find them, they were just way out of my price range. And I went over to my brothers, who had just recently got out of the Air Force, and it was slightly before 9/11, which just was the anniversary just yesterday, but it was right before 9/11, and my brother got re-upped after that. But right before that happened, I went over to my brother's house, and a package came while we were sitting there. We were watching a movie or something, and he got mail, and he comes in and he's like, "I bought you something for Christmas, and I can't wait to give it to you. Can I give it to you now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he gives it to me, and it was the rest of the books I needed to complete my set.
Shut up.
I'm not even lying. He had issues 1 through 4, 8, and 10. He knew which issues I needed because we talked about my collection all the time, because my brother read just about everything, but he knew what I needed, and he went out and he's like, "You know what? I want to do something for my brother." And I've talked to him. I was like, "I'm just never going to complete the set," and I accepted that. I was like, "It's okay." And then whenever he gives it to me, and I open it up, and that was the first one that came out, was the Captain America cover, and the tears just started coming down. And as I was going through it, and it's like, I mean, the number 3 he got me was like a near mint number 3. and I'm just like, and I'm looking at the rest of them, and I just couldn't believe it. And he was crying just as much as I was, because I was just like, I never thought I would complete the set. And of course, what the first thing I did was I took them out and read them.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so it completed my set, and I just never thought that I would ever live to see the day. And that was over 20 years ago now. And yeah.
What did you get him for Christmas? The bottle of aftershave.
Nothing even close to this. So this was probably the best gift anyone has ever gotten me. Anybody that knows me, and that was really something. But this particular book, it's a key piece of Marvel history that everyone should have in their collection if they can afford to have it. So. Mm-hmm.
I thought the story was going to be that you actually brothers and you stole it from him, but no.
You know what I did steal from him?
Girl.
Nope, the entire Claremont Byrne run of X-Men.
we won't tell, but we won't tell.
No, he knows I have it. He knows I have it.
Oh, safekeeping.
Yeah. It's they're home with the rest of the other comics.
That's what my brother told me with my Transformers collection.
Yeah. I bet your brother transformed them into quick cash. That's what he did with those.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
They transformed themselves into my comics.
So I don't own this book. What can I say? I don't have £2,000 to spend on it, especially as my wife wants to go to Mexico once lockdown's lifted. So looking at this, Jack Kirby art is Jack Kirby. I know people talk about Jack Kirby like he's the bee's knees. And you know what? Sometimes, 9 times out of 10, he absolutely is. But still, you get some dodgy panels, I think, where there's not a lot of movement.
I have to say, I don't think Kirby is really Kirby yet.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't hit his golden age on FF yet. and he's not breaking those walls yet. He's still staying in the panels. He's still, his art is still very kind of like very kinetic energy, very lot of action, but it's not in your face yet, right?
I'll tell you what, that page of right there of Captain America lying on the table after he's found is probably one of the most iconic images in Marvel history, with Iron Man looking and Thor and the Wasp flying over Cap. And then obviously following that is when Cap wakes up and he still thinks that he's trying to give Bucky a heads up that they're still back during the war. So those two pages right there to me are the quintessential moments of Avengers history.
Yeah,
when it pertains to Captain America.
Agreed.
Yeah, totally. So how important this book is? Well, not so long ago, Captain America was killed in the death of Captain America. Then the issue, or one of the issues that followed it, they returned Cap's body back to the sea to be frozen, with Prince Namor looking over him to make sure he was always going to be safe. And I thought that was absolutely pretty much a great way for the character to go. Of course, it's comic books and nobody stays dead too long. So, hey-ho. But for me, Avengers 4 is probably, of the earliest Avengers, it's probably the one that you've got to say, that's where everything comes together. And it's funny, because you look at the X-Men, and the X-Men do not come together anywhere. It takes them 94 issues in a giant size book to get their stuff together.
One more thing to say about this issue is really this is where the whole concept of a rotating membership comes in too, because you had Hulk leave in issue 2, and then Cap comes in issue 4, and from then on, it's really you have that idea that the membership is always in flux, and they will invite new members, and people will leave. And this is one of those key issues. It really is.
And I think this really catapulted the Avengers title itself compared to the stable of other books that Marvel put out at the time.
Yep.
This was the book to get other than FF. It was this and FF and Spider-Man. Like this really put Marvel on the map.
Definitely. It's interesting you talk about rotating characters. Here is a quick rundown of the where's my camera going? Of the mightiest heroes that have been Avengers. Are you ready? So we all know who the original bunch were.
Yep.
Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch was added, Hercules, Black Panther, Vision.
Oh, you skipped me. You missed Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Well, he's in this book. Oh, no, he's not. He's in the book later on. Sorry, Hawkeye. Then, of course, through the 70s, you got Black Widow, Mantis. Less said, the better about her. Beast, Moondragon, Hellcat, the Two-Gun Kid. Now that surely has to be the Earth's mightiest hero, right? The Two-Gun Kid. Miss Marvel.
Better than one.
Yeah. I can't say anything. It's the Batman thing. Miss Marvel. So that's the Carol Danvers. Falcon re-ups. In the 80s, you've got Wonder Man, Tigra, Shulky, Captain Marvel. That's the Monica Rambeau. Captain Marvel. Star Fox, Namor, and Dr. Druid. So that's basically the Professor's dream team there. from issue 246. Woohoo. You've got the West Coast, which includes Mockingbird, War Machine, also known as Iron Patriot, Thing, Moon Knight, and Firebird. Then it gets all crazy. So you've got Demolition Man.
D-Man. Yeah.
Someone who was so creative they just called him Hero. Mr. Fantastic, the Invisible Woman, US Agent, Quasar, the Torch, Cersei, Stingray. Stingray was a guy that never seemed to get a lot of love.
Nope.
Yeah, that's true.
UN charter recruits include Spider-Man, that's the Peter Parker Spider-Man. Sandman, that's the Sandman from Marvel, not Wesley Dodds. Rage, X-51, better known as
Machine Man.
Yeah, hell yeah. Living Lightning, Spider-Woman, that's the Julia Carpenter Spider-Woman, not the Jessica Drew one. Crystal, Thunderstrike, which was the replacement Thor, and Darkhawk was added as a reserve member as the West Coast Avengers. Then from 98 to 2004, Justice, Firestar, Triathlon, Silverclaw, Jack of Hearts, Ant-Man, That's the second Ant-Man. Captain Britain, not that one, a different one. Luke Cage, Wolverine, Sentry, and Echo all joined in as new Avengers. And then after Civil War, Ares, Amadeus Cho, because every team needs a Hulk. Jocasta, again, because she had some time back in the 180s, 190s. Stature, Vision, again, different Vision. Bucky Barnes, Captain America. Finally, Jessica Drew turns up. Valkyrie, Nova, Ant-Man. That's Eric O'Grady, not the other one. Oh man. Iron Fist, Power Woman. So Jessica Jones was retroed into there. I thought Jessica Jones was, Jill there it says. Protector, Doctor Strange, Red Hulk, because everyone needs a Hulk. Daredevil, Storm, Quake, Captain Britain. That Captain Britain. Agent Venom. Flash Thompson was an Avenger. How's he a mightiest hero? Son of a...
It's basically who wasn't an Avenger.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mephisto, Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Havoc, Sunspot, Cannonball. Obviously, the New Mutants team must have folded at some point. Manifold, great if your car breaks down. Shang-Chi, Captain Universe, Smasher, Hyperion, Rogue. That's Rogue from the X-Men. Sunfire. Do I have to keep going? There's shed loads.
Yeah.
Who's Ex-Nihilo? Who's Nine Mask?
Well, that's from Robert Kirkman's run on Avengers.
Oh, man. So really, that's mightiest heroes. You didn't need to be that mighty. You just need to be able to shift some books.
Yeah.
No love for Jarvis either.
Yeah. Well, imagine making all those beds.
There's, it did the lineup, the membership did get really kind of convoluted in the early 2000s and actually the mid 2000s, and it is kind of crazy at this point to kind of try to figure out who was a member and who wasn't. But
it's just never mind. All right, before we jump on the next book, we'll take a quick break. You know what? We're going to go with The Crisis. See if you can spot any Avengers in the advert.
When did Batman join the Avengers?
I saw two Avengers.
I didn't see any.
Mysterio.
Really?
That's fine.
Mysterio must be an Avenger by now, right?
He will be.
Yeah. And if Conan can join the Avengers, I'm pretty damn sure Boba Fett, owned by Marvel, owned by DC, not by Disney, owned by Star Wars, I'm sure he's going to pop up sooner or later. So there you go. There's my shout for 2022. Boba Fett joins the Avengers, the Cosmic Avengers. There we go. Go through one of those time travel loops and end up a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
You're giving away the timeline for the second season of What If coming on Disney Plus next year.
If that happens, I said it first. It's here. It's on YouTube. I want my dollars. Thank you very much. Son of a bitch. All right, Professor, it's your book. Thank God you did not pick Avengers 246 again, because it was hard enough the first time.
Yeah, but when I'm trying to pick it, when I was trying to pick just a single issue to review out of the entire run, I was like, well, what do I really love about the Avengers? I was like, my favorite issues to read were the ones where the old order changeth, so to speak. And this was my favorite of those issues. Was when they redid the lineup, and Yeah, I mean, this issue 181 from 1978, I believe it is.
79 on the publication, but yeah, I'll give you 78. Well done.
Okay.
Written by, you have to say his name because I always get it wrong.
David Michelinie.
Thank you. Art by John Byrne and Gene Day. Colours by F. Morley, whoever she is. Art he is. And then poor Elaine, she doesn't even get a full credit. Elaine H. Elaine H., whoever you were, please note your surname got abbreviated so that Jim Shooter could have his name on the book. All right, blame Jim. That's all I'm saying.
Jim's got to give himself credit.
He has. This book retails at around $70. Couldn't find it in UK prices. There you go.
Really?
Yeah. When you talk about the order changes, this isn't the cover that I remember. I remember what's the one with the red cover with all the pictures on?
And that's issue 221.
That's the one I remember for this cycle.
Yeah, and that was when there were two members. That was when you get to pick who joined, and it was Hawkeye and She-Hulk, I think. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So take it away. What's this book about?
So there was some build up to this for several months, where if you see the redhead on the cover, Henry Peter Gyrich or Gyrick, however you guys want to pronounce it.
I would say Gyrick.
So he actually, people might remember him from the X-Men movie because he appeared there.
I call him Jackass.
But he actually first appeared in the Avengers as the government agent that decided that the Avengers had way too much security clearance and were very lax in locking down the mansion when no one was home. And he was able at some point, in a few issues before this, to break into the mansion on his own and just kind of pretty much have his way. He subdued Jarvis, and then was in turn and subdued himself by Hawkeye, who wasn't a member at the time, but it just kind of wandered in and stopped Gyrick. But anyway, Gyrick ends up having a fight, or not really a fight, but basically shutting down the Avengers and taking away their security clearance, and to turn into a big fight between Captain America and Iron Man, who at this point were really at heads on how to lead the Avengers. And if we remember correctly, Iron Man was kind of going through his own little thing in his book at this time, which would be Demon in a Bottle. So his what's going on here is very early after the Korvac saga. So that's why there's a ton of Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy sticking around, because they had just defeated Korvac, and they were all still kind of hanging out. The Guardians were stuck in the 20th century, and then you had Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel, all these big cosmic guns that came out to help defeat Korvac. And here, this is where Iron Man does a backdoor deal with the government and Gyrick to get their security clearance back. And as a consequence of that, Gyrick gets to pick the lineup, which was, I thought, was the greatest thing. And the best page in here is because Hawkeye, who's ready to come back and join the team, they run down the 7 Avengers, and I think that's John Burns he must have had so much fun drawing that panel of Hawkeye just getting pissed when Gyrick throws the Falcon on the team instead of him.
So this is basically Patriots camp this season, isn't it? It's like,
right.
We got this receiver, we got this running back, we got this lineman, we've got Mac Jones. Sorry, Cam, you're not in. And there you go. That's the look.
That is exactly. And then Hawkeye gets pissed because he's like, I'm not on the team. And the Falcon, who was never an Avenger before and is not even in this issue, becomes a member or because of affirmative action, right? And that was kind of the big thing in 1978. It was crazy. And to read that book then, if you were reading it then, you would have been like, well, what the heck? And that would be the, I guess, the epitome of government sticking their nose where they shouldn't be, right? And how everything goes nuts from there. And I love the fact if you continue to read post this issue, that lineup never actually comes to be.
I was going to say, because Miss Marvel's pretty prominent from the 180s onwards, isn't she?
In this
up
very
until that certain issue, which we're never going to talk about ever again.
in this very issue, you see Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver go down, and they're abducted by their father, the Django Maximoff, and she actually takes a leave after that, which leads to Ms. Marvel joining the group instead of Scarlet Witch. And then Iron Man leaves shortly thereafter to deal with Demon in a Bottle. And so, he's gone for a bit.
So who replaces Iron Man?
So Wonder Man comes back and he kind of hangs around for a while, right?
Yeah, him and the Beast are tight, aren't they?
Yep, and Wonder Man never actually leaves the book, and Hank Pym is still around as Yellow Jacket, so he never really leaves the book. Joe Costa comes back, and so she never really leaves the book. So even though there's 7 official Avengers, there's still 4 or 5 of them that are just kind of hanging around the mansion that are not part of the team. But that was a kind of a good part of the Michaelini run, was that things just never slow down. There was always something going on, some little bit of subplots where I think that's kind of a lost art today. Great. Is the art of the subplot or the slow burn up until like something that's actually going to happen. And that's, I just love just this whole issue, the whole idea of it. I love the old order changeth type situations. This was my favorite Wonder Man costume. I like the Guardians. I love John Byrne's artwork.
Yeah,
very suited to large casts. It was Byrne and Perez; those were the late '70s artists.
I'd take Byrne over Perez in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Twice on Sunday. Interesting. I mean, for me, we talked about Stingray not getting a lot of love. I don't think Wonder Man gets a lot of love.
Not in these early issues. I think, I think later on he gets a little bit of a spotlight. But he was going through a time here where he wasn't confident, and so he was getting his ass handed to him every issue. Yeah. But I think he had kind of woken up, or he wakes up a little bit after this, and becomes more of a proper hero. But he ends up leaving. This is where, when he's not selected for the team, he actually leaves for a bit to go to Hollywood, and that's where he becomes an actor. But then he comes back very, very shortly thereafter. So to me, Wonder Man is one of those essential late '70s Avengers members.
And this is probably the reason why I was never a huge Avengers fan, because this is around the time I was reading comic books for the first time, like really concentrating on comic books. And looking at that cast, I didn't know anything about Wonder Man. Beast, I thought he should have been in the X-Men. Quicksilver, I had no idea who he was. To me, when I think Avengers, I want the Avengers.
Well, this is one of those key issues.
Thor's not even in the group.
Yeah, this is one of those key issues that Don Blake is in here, but not Thor.
I meant Thor's not on the team.
Yeah, but this is one of those issues that was very early in when I was collecting back issues for the Avengers, because this had so many characters on the cover. I was like, all these characters are Avengers? Holy crap. And I didn't know who half of them were either. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Had no idea. Captain Marvel, I didn't know who Captain Marvel was. And just to kind of read through this issue and kind of get just a kind of a feel for who was here. It was a great issue to kind of get to know a little bit more about the characters and about the Avengers themselves. So
sweet. Yeah. 13th. What are you? Are you an old all the changes kind of guy, or do you kind of like the status quo?
No, it's all good and everything. I just don't like that government guy with Gyrick. I just never liked it.
You heard it here. 13th does not like gingers.
That bastard shot Storm.
Yeah, but it does introduce an interesting dynamic to the Avengers lore, and it's funny how let me
You
just say
sound
something
so.
here.
You sound absolutely PO'd that you're looking at this book.
No,
It's
no, I'm
like
not. I'm going to
one
tell you
of the
why.
things I
Because
want.
I do love this cover. There's no doubt about it. It's
All right,
to me,
let me get
it's
back to the
very
cover.
powerful cover. It's a very well
It's
done
basically
piece of
that,
art.
isn't it? There you go. It's
Yeah,
basically
and then you got that splash panel, which it's great. I love the art throughout. You guys know that I like John Byrne. Not a
yes.
super diehard fan, but he's up there. And it's funny how you're seeing this at that time, and then in today's perspective, where we were just talking a short while ago of how many people have been Avengers.
Uh-huh.
It's interesting how this won't happen now,
No.
where
Hmm.
it really is needed. So I might not like the guy, but it did make sense. It was just too many characters
Yeah.
roaming the pages of Avengers. And for instance, like Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel himself,
Uh-huh.
um, he had his own book. It got canceled. He made cameos here. He made cameos there with the Avengers, helped them in a pinch and what have you. But
Yeah.
even that wasn't good enough. It still wasn't his home. And
Yeah.
you can kind of go around the board with like the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, why in God's name would you have them become members of the Avengers?
Yeah.
So it just some things didn't make sense, and introducing this made sense to kind of all right. We got to part things here,
Yeah.
and this happened again with the introduction of the West Coast Avengers, right?
Yep.
And I think that was great for Hawkeye
Mm-hmm.
to have been selected then as the leader of the West Coast, because this is just one of his memories on why he had a chip on his shoulder. He
Mm.
didn't forget about this, and you get to see that. But there's some core Avengers here. You get some of the original members. You get some of the follow-up Avengers. Vision, Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver. They've been around the early days. Black Panther, Black Widow, and Beast.
Mm-hmm.
These are well-known Avengers. Obviously, I don't want to. I mentioned earlier Hawkeye, so it's all good. It had to happen, I guess, and I guess this was the issue that they had to do it in, and it's good in a way because some of these characters that split off
Mm-hmm.
maybe were better off, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you run a team this big
Yeah,
for that length of time, it tends to be the risk factor in the story kind of
right.
diminishes. Because like, oh no, we really need the power of the Thunder God. If only we had Thor on our team. Oh wait, we do have Thor, of course.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you what. I'll give you an example. Moondragon, right?
Yep.
I love the Moondragon when the Defenders title changed to New Defenders, and how much more critical was her role later on, right? In other major events. So that's an example. I think she would have been drowned out had she remained part of the Avengers lineup during this time.
Yeah, that's a shout. That's not a bad shout at all, actually. Absolutely good
Yeah.
shout. So I
I
mean, some of
agree.
the characters taking a step back has probably helped them establish themselves a little bit more.
Right,
Definitely.
right.
No.
It's too much to handle for a writer event. And we've spoken about this before. It's one thing to have a lineup of 5 or 6, maybe even 10 or 12. It's been done and
Yeah.
done well. But this many, it's a lot.
Yeah. How does everyone get panel time?
Right.
So
Right.
and then the inevitable question is why wasn't such and such here? Why wasn't such and such?
You'll end up with Legionitis, right? Because
Yeah.
the Legion of Superheroes, and that's a classic example of having way too many characters in a stable.
Right.
There was a page that I wanted to bring everyone's attention whilst we were looking at this book. Let me just find it again. Where is it? Whoa, hubba hubba, check out that advert. Woo woo. Some hotties on there, right? Woo. No?
Did you have a Cheryl Teagues poster?
No. No.
Oh wait, there's no Cheryl Teagues. Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, you've Fawcett, you've got
Cheryl Ladd. Yeah.
Cheryl Ladd,
It's the
Linda
best part
Carter.
about the old comics.
Woo woo. Check it out. Those were the days. Those were the days when you could have pin-ups of girls in comic books. All right, okay. What can I say? I'm an old timer. All right, so what was I going to say? So that leaves my choice. Well, I read this book, and I think was something called "Is Superman a Spy?" And it's written by Brian Cronin. And in it, he talks about all sorts of different comic book history and stuff like that. Brian Cronin might, for those who have been around a while, will recognize him from a column he used to do over on, I daren't say the name because I'll get fired if I say it, CBR. So, and in which that column would debunk comic book theories one way or the other, or prove them to be true or false. And he postulated that one of the best runs in the Avengers was the run which we're going to talk about now, mainly because it was so underappreciated, and yet there was some absolutely kick-ass storylines going on. I'm talking about, I suppose you'd call it the Gatherers Saga, if it was kicking around now. It'd be an event that crosses over 14 times over. But
is it called anything?
No, not at all. I'm just giving it the name. So we'll talk about Avengers 355 to 367. It's from 1992. Tell you how we've gone from the sublime to the ridiculous with this book. You can get these issues anywhere from £1 to £5. I think this one's probably the most expensive one because it's got a first appearance in there. It's written by the series. The run is written by Bob Harris, art by Steve Epting, inks and colours by Tom Palmer, and letters by Bill Oakley. And I remember this book initially. I had a little comic book business when this book came out, and I absolutely dissed it to anyone that would listen because they're trying to be the X-Men. They've got like all these funky little jackets going on. When I get there.
Who ended up writing the X-Men after this?
They want to be the X-Men. They've got the flight little jackets going on there. Everyone's looking cool.
The bomber jackets.
A lot of emotional drama. There's a love triangle between the Black Knight, Crystal, and Cersei. Black Widow's in charge and apparently having a thing with Steve Rogers. I own these books. I picked them up in a box of comics that I bought, and when I read them, I was absolutely blown away just how fun they were. Absolutely. It's got your superhero melodrama that you'd like. It's got characters. Steve Epting's art looks gorgeous all the way through. You could say he's like a third generation John Byrne, maybe.
I wouldn't say that.
Would you not? Second generation John Byrne?
No, the real all-star on this book is Tom Palmer.
Agreed. I'll give you that. And then all sorts of crazy stuff comes up. The Gatherers pop up. They're looking for one of their characters, one of the group that's been captured. This leads the Avengers to deal with that issue, whilst also simultaneously fighting the battle within the team in the love triangle. For me, the whole run just reads brilliantly. It's just straight up good fun.
So the love triangle was because they were interested in his enchanted sword, or how did that start?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh, okay.
For me, it's just a fun read. It's what comics should be. There's no airs or graces to this. It's not pretentious in any shape, way, or form. It is a bunch of characters of which they're not really that popular. I mean, this isn't Thor. This is the Thunderstrike, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Thunderstrike. Yeah.
Yep. Crystal used to be in the Fantastic Four, and of course is an Inhuman. Hercules hasn't got his beard anymore. Cersei just looks hot in thigh-high boots, and the Vision's lost all his colour. It's just a book that you just look at and you think, really? But give it its due. Go back, read it, because I think it is tickety-boo. I think it's up there with the rest, with some really good Avengers. And when you think there have been some absolutely stonkingly bad Avengers books, not saying anything about 246 again, just saying. I mean, there have been others other than that. I just think this is just a good fun book, you know. I'll give you a good fun run. There you go. Check that out. There you go. Professor, we'll go Professor. What do you think of this run?
Yeah. So I reread this run for the podcast today. It was interesting because I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't think I've read this run since I bought it, like 30 years ago. And I remember really liking it because of, it was the 90s and I loved Tom Palmer, and I did come to grow to like Epting's artwork as long as Palmer was inking him. And and then it was all the different new characters, and just by rereading this, it was like in the span of that 12-issue run, you had almost new costumes for everybody, minus the bomber jackets. I mean, you had Crystal with a brand new costume. Cersei goes from green to red. You have Vision goes from his Boston cream color to a more classic red and green, but updated look. And then just the changes in the almost the soap opera ishness of the book is what drives it, with the over with the villains being Proctor and the Gatherers, which are kind of almost all kind of carbon copies of different kind of Avengers characters from different realities, and Proctor being, and I don't even know if they don't say it in this run, because I think Proctor comes back later. But Proctor's actually like a template of Dane Whitman or Black Knight, right? And this the whole thing and the whole drama is really what keeps you reading the book. Is, as much as I kind of thought it was really kind of hokey for Crystal, Black Knight, Cersei to have some kind of a love triangle, it was actually the way they pulled it off was kind of really interesting, and actually I wanted to see how it played out.
Yeah, definitely.
Having Hercules kind of be in love with Taylor Madison, and you kind of know that there's something going on there with Taylor, which is not resolved in this story, but later on, I think it's the gods are involved there somewhat. I think it's Hera is being villainous. Black Widow, she's leading the group, kind of surprising, and then Captain America comes back in later on. And just kind of takes right over, right? But the one thing that really kind of attracted me, especially initially to this reread, is the fact that at the beginning of this run, there's none of the original Avengers are in this book for almost, I think, the first time ever. The lineup does not have any of the original five, and that you'd be hard pressed to find another lineup that doesn't have at least one of them.
Yeah.
So
that's the shout.
Yeah, and so it's just interesting just to kind of see a bunch of, and then there's no A-listers in this. They do their best to try to make Black Knight an A-list character, but he's not. He's not. But that's what I think is good about this run, is because they basically can do things that you wouldn't normally do. None of these characters had their own books, so you could just kind of do what you wanted. And that's what Bob Harris did. He made some major changes to some of these characters. The getting rid of Quicksilver and Crystal's marriage, and having her kind of be attracted to Black Knight and everything. That was stuff that you wouldn't do with an A-list book, A-list character on their book. So I really enjoyed this run. I could do without the drive-through headsets that Captain America and Hank Pym end up wearing. I don't, and it's like half of them had headsets and half of them didn't. So I was like, what are they for?
So when someone takes an order, it's like, hold on, I have to take a breathe. Someone wants a Big Mac with fries. Okay,
yeah. So I mean, some of it's good. There's no big event like when Captain America turns up, he's just instantly back on the team. Yeah. Same thing with Hank Pym. Hank Pym comes back in, and he's just automatically back in the team with no explanation. He's back as Giant Man with no explanation. So that was interesting too. I loved these villains, Proctor and Swordsman and what is it, Magdalene or something?
Yeah.
And then Sloth and the others. Those characters, it's like, where have these characters been for like 30 years? How come they didn't come back? I thought Proctor was a great villain that they could reuse.
The problem is, if these are evil versions of Avengers, you've got to be evil versions of the popular Avengers. Yes, there's no good being Swordsman and being, oh, look at him, he's an evil copy of Black Knight, and everyone goes, Black what?
Proctor started his own corporation with Gamble.
Well, and then in this run is the first appearance of Deathcry as well,
Mhm.
who was a quintessential '90s character. You know, so it is like one of these. I just don't know. Some of these characters were keepers. I just don't know why Proctor or all the Gatherers didn't come back and have another story.
One of their public domain by now.
No wonder.
Mm.
What 13th? What did you think of this run?
It's classic 90s. I mean, this is one benefit of having a title as successful as the Avengers had been, at least through this point, where you can do experiments like this or toss in a new idea and just put different characters who may not really interact all that often, put them in a blender and see what you get. And then you have them, go over a long period of time. However many, what did you mention, like 14 issues. So that's, quite a number of books to have this kind of story go through. So it's all good, I guess. I hate Hercules, though. I never liked that guy from day one. So.
I'm agree with you on that one. I'm not a big
I could have done without all the foil covers, even though it was like a 30th anniversary. It was like bronze, silver, gold, and then there was a platinum cover, which we didn't get to. But
a lot of gimmicks in the 90s, man. This one was no different.
Yep.
Do you think this is Bob Harris auditioning for the Xbox?
Yeah. I mean, actually, wasn't he on the Xbox
it might be
simultaneously?
Is this not one of those Marvel joys where you could be a writer of a book and editor somewhere else?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Here's my final question then before we wrap up this Avengers, before we disassemble this episode. Give me your favorite non-Big Seven Avenger.
When you say Big Seven, I mean you're talking the original lineup plus Hawkeye.
Yeah. You're talking like the big guns, not the big guns. If you say Star Fox, I will absolutely cut you off.
It's not. It's not Star Fox. I would probably have to go with the Safari Jacket Wonder Man. And then if I want to go like modern, someone just rang my doorbell, but they can wait out there.
Tailgate starts early at Burton's house.
They heard you through the Avengers headset. That's why.
Go to Mike, and I'll come back with another Avenger.
Okay. Professor, sorry, Mike 13th. What you got?
Yeah, Jocasta has been a long favorite of mine.
I was going to say Jocasta. Son of a.
Yeah, Jocasta, Mockingbird. When she was on the West Coast, Tigra has always been and I kind of like those characters. I don't know who else you could throw in there, but Beast has always been cool. I actually enjoyed him a lot.
I enjoyed him more on Avengers than I did in X-Men.
I agree with that 1,000,000%. Yeah.
Ironically, yeah. Jocasta would be in mine, to be honest.
She-Hulk was a good time on the Avengers roster as well.
I kind of liked when Busiek took over after Heroes Reborn. I liked that they added Justice and Firestar onto the team. I thought those were kind of okay new additions, and I like to see kind of like the promotion from the New Warriors to the Avengers.
Well, I had that because this was Mark Bagley's run as well, wasn't it? Bagley was the artist
on New Warriors. No, Kurt Busiek and George Perez.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That's why I gave the book away to my nephew. That's right. There you go.
Because it was Perez.
Yeah, I knew there was a reason. I knew there was a reason why I didn't have it anymore. Yeah, so I'm going with. Do you class Scarlet Witch as a major player?
I don't. I assumed that she was one of the big seven that you mentioned, so that's why I didn't pick her. But she was always a favorite.
Jocasta's up there for me. Can we say Miss Marvel? Maybe. Well, I like Miss Marvel anyway, so it's not like no. Crystal. I like Crystal.
Yeah, Crystal was a good member
from my Fantastic Four love. So there you go.
I don't know, Two Gun Kid. No. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Hercules, without a doubt, is probably my least favorite.
Oh, least favorites. That's a shout for Hercules for you.
Yeah. And there's a run of Avengers specifically that I like for a variety of reasons, where Hercules gets his ass kicked, and then I see my favorite Avengers villains in there. And it was just like Christmas Day.
That was the Under Siege storyline where, Hercules got the piss beat out of him.
Yeah, so that's Avengers 273 through 277. It's a great time.
Okay, cool.
My least favorite Avenger would be Moondragon.
That's a shout.
Yeah.
My least favorite. You know what? You're going to hurl abuse at me. I don't care. Hawkeye.
Horrible.
I'm not a Hawkeye guy. It's dude. I've got Oliver Queen somewhere else, so I'm happy.
Hawkeye in his original purple costume is classic. Classic. Can't go wrong.
Apart from Hawkeye, the only thing that really annoys me about Avengers is the amount of times Vision gets rebooted. It's
right.
like it's like it gets a Windows update every 3 issues or something.
Yeah,
it's bonkers.
So Hawkeye wasn't on point for you.
Oh no! I gave him the shaft. Okay.
Oh.
On that note, whilst we leave you all a quiver, it's thanks, Professor, for joining us.
Thank you.
13th, thank you very much for your time and efforts. Really enjoyed it. Next time around, we'll leave that as a surprise. I think we've done enough pre-planning. We can't be giving all the subplots away. That's like, although subplots are a old-timers type of thing.
We'll come up with an idea.
We'll come up with something.
I thought you were going to open a door there, Professor, and Quicksilver was going to be at the door.
No, my daughter answered the door. I think it was my nephew.
Pizza. Yeah. It's pizza. That's what it is. It's pizza for the game.
Speaking about game, let's go watch.
Let's go. All right, guys. We're out of here. Thanks for tuning in to the Old Timers Crusade, Old Timers Comic Book Show. Don't forget to check out UCPN for all your favorite podcasts, including
No Prize Podcast, all about Marvel Comics.
Excellent. And of course, if you annoyed at us because we haven't talked about bats, go and check out TDC, the Definitive Crusade, where you get anything, including bats, because that's all DC put out right now. All right. There you go, guys. Go and enjoy the ball games and go Finns.
No, go Pats.
Go Finns.
Pats.
I'd say go Giants, but I know where they're going, so.